So let's get into the Nets title chances now, Mort, because ever since they acquired Harden, there were concerns at first of too many guys who need the ball, blah, blah, blah. There's only one ball, whatever. We've quickly seen that the Nets have been very, very good with Harden in the fold. That said, we still have really yet to see the fully healthy Nets. I think the KD, Kyrie, Harden triumvirate have played 7 games together so far. KD was out for a long time with his injury. Now Harden is out 10 days with his. Kyrie's in and out of the lineup for various reasons as well. So all of this analysis that we are about to embark upon is assuming we get to see not a fully healthy Nets team because, again, they're not going to have Aldridge. They're not going to have Spencer Dinwiddie, barring an absolute miracle. But, let's assume the big three come May 21st or May 22nd, whenever their first playoff game is,
right,
all 3 of those guys are on the floor together. We can't bank on them staying healthy throughout the playoffs, but at least, fingers crossed, they will go into the playoffs healthy. Is there anyone in the East right now that you think has a legitimate chance in a 7-game series to beat this team?
Milwaukee.
Only Milwaukee, or Milwaukee's number one?
Milwaukee is number one. I'm not. No. Don't worry. Your Sixers are still on the list. That's.
Well, I'm just asking.
No, they are. But Milwaukee is my big. I think people are just sleeping on Giannis at this point. I realize that he's out, and that's not helping the narrative. Mm-hmm. But I also think there's like a waking a sleeping giant element in all of this. He is just so damn good. And Chris Middleton, it feels like people are still sleeping on him just in terms of how good he is. The Drew Holiday upgrade, is that a significant upgrade? Defensively, offensively, he's just smart. I think defensively that trio matches up better than anyone else in the East against Brooklyn's trio. See, I'm always so close to calling it New Jersey because they started rolling out these old school uniforms that you've seen, like the blue and like the baby blue and white. Just took me back to New Jersey. But that's the best defensive lineup for those. And then, hey, they also have Brook Lopez, who's still in there in the thick of things near the rim, sending away shots. I like that matchup for Milwaukee. Now, not saying they're going to win it, because, look, it's the Brooklyn Nets with those 3 guys. They can put up 90 points together, just the 3 of them, if they hit their strides. And how the hell do you stop that? I don't know. And then you have Joe Harris canning open threes. It's not going to be easy. But if someone out there stands a chance and matches up well, I think it's Milwaukee. I think that is the team that is built to stop them, which is kind of ironic because they were actually accumulated first, because the trio in Brooklyn was came together after the Drew Holiday trade. So it's just a funny coincidence, but that almost seems tailor-made to try to stop those guys.
Yeah. No, I think the point you make about the Holiday, Middleton, Giannis trio defensively against the Nets' big 3 is super valid. We'll get to Philly in a bit, but that is one of my concerns with that potential matchup. But how would you break it down? Like, I'm assuming Drew is on Kyrie.
Yes.
Would you put Giannis on KD or Giannis on Hart? Again, I mean, they're going to all switch interchangeably, but like, who would be their primary assignment?
I gotta go KD or Giannis on KD. The length is just an issue. While I would prefer Giannis on Harden from an individual perspective, Chris Middleton would just get burned, I think, off of KD. And I'm fully realizing that Middleton is a great defender, but Durant is a 7-footer who has a high release point and arms that could probably reach me from Brooklyn right now if he wanted to. So, I mean, how do you stop that if you're Chris Middleton?
I don't have a good answer to that question.
But how do you stop it if you're Giannis? Well, I don't know if you stop it, but you definitely make that shot far more difficult. The length matches up so well. And then here's the thing. And I don't know if this is hot takey whatsoever, because I think this is also one of those things where it's a small sample size. KD has only played 22 games. He came off not having played an entire year. But I think defensively, he's taken a step down just a little bit, which is also fair. Like, he's, 33? He's going to be 33 this year, right? I think. Somewhere.
He turns, in September.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, well, okay. So he's 32 now. He's just come off a whole year. He's also been injured this year. Like, I get that his defense is not top-tuned like it was in Golden State. But, man, if Giannis just smells that out at some point, like, let's not sleep on what Giannis could do to KD on the other end as well.
Right. Yeah, do the Nets have the personnel to do what Miami did to Giannis last year, what Toronto did to Giannis 2 years ago?
No.
Where you build the wall. Like, who's building the wall?
Bruce Brown?
I mean, yeah, like Bruce Brown and Claxton, I feel better about than some of the guys in the starting lineup.
Oh, I mean, look, I get the whole Bruce Brown is a big Twitter thing right now.
Yeah.
But if Bruce Brown, I can't stop laughing at this idea that 6'4", 6'5" Bruce Brown becomes like the primary wall piece for Giannis Antetokounmpo. My God, he'll get murdered.
It'd be like the 2011 finals when JJ Barea was the LeBron stopper.
Yeah. It'll be super weird. No, I don't think from an offensive perspective, I think Milwaukee, especially Giannis in that series, would just be able to go absolutely haywire. I think he would be able to just do whatever he wanted to offensively from a scoring perspective. As much as I like the three individual components in Brooklyn, we have to acknowledge there are still defensive concerns. Harden is still primarily a post defender. Okay, great, but who the hell plays the post anymore?
Well, I know one team.
Yeah, sure, we'll get to him, but and he can't stop Embiid. I mean, they're yeah. And Kyrie, man, you know what? Let's talk about that because I can't figure his defense out. There are days when I really feel that he is improved, where he reads angles, like is positioning himself well, like defensively on pick and rolls, and you can sort of see there's something clicking. And then he'll turn around a couple nights later, and he will look lost. I've seen the narrative around the web going, "Oh, he's better." Yeah, in some games he is, but overall, where the hell is he as a defender? I can't figure out his defense.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Is it just like a regular season thing where he's just not totally locked in, and then come playoff time when you can focus on one opponent, really dive into the scouting report, like, do you get better efforts out of him, or will that inconsistency still show up on a night-to-night basis? It's a fair question, and it's definitely something that, I mean, like dating back to the Harden acquisition, other than there's only one ball concern. I mean, early on in this Harden iteration of the Nets, their defense was horrific, and it's certainly that's the way to beat them, is just not necessarily outscore them because they have, you have to outscore them to win the game, but not try to outgun them, I should say. Right. Because if you get into a run and gun thing with them at first to 140, they're probably going to beat you in that way. It's just being efficient with your shot attempts, limiting turnovers, and shooting above 50 overall, shooting high 30s, low 40s from three. You just don't want to. If you're missing a ton of shots against them, you're done. But if you're cashing in on the opportunities you have, because you should have some pretty good opportunities against that defense, it's a fair point.
One of the things that I also think is worth mentioning, and I get this is a regular season stat, and sometimes you just have to throw those numbers out of the window after you go into the playoffs. But Milwaukee keeps other teams from going to the line best in the entire NBA. Opponents are only taking 18.1 free throws against them per night, and that is leading the league. Well, what is one of James Harden's primary methods of scoring? Mm-hmm. If you can get him to not draw as many fouls in some way, I think that's a pretty big thing. That's a pretty big factor right there. KD as well, for that matter. Now, again, sometimes individual talent just takes over, and then the stats don't matter. But if that percentage holds true, that's a huge, huge boon for Milwaukee going into any playoff series against those guys.
Yeah, that's a great call. And again, I think it would come down to personnel there too, where, you know, other teams may get into more foul trouble against Brooklyn because they don't have the guys to slow down Kyrie or slow down Harden or slow down KD. But if Milwaukee's big three matches up as well with Brooklyn's as we think they do, then they might be able to stay out of foul trouble because they can just defend them. You know, you're not getting into bad spots where Kyrie blows by you and he's either going to get a layup or you got to just foul him to at least make him earn it at the line.
Two more points about Milwaukee, by the way.
Yeah.
They have Bobby Portis and Bryn Forbes coming off the bench. Both those guys are shooting very, very, very well from outside. I don't know if that's going to translate to the playoffs, but it seems they have caught an offensive rhythm, and they're also both prime players, by the way. I think they're playing in some of their best basketball in their careers so far. Those aren't insignificant pieces in a playoff context. Those two guys together, if they both catch fire, and Bobby's a good rebounder as well, if those two guys come in and have good games off the bench, they could swing a game.
Yeah.
That matters. Like, having offensive role players who can come in and knock down open shots and just put points on the court, on the board rather, that matters in a playoff context. Then you can give me all the switching arguments, the defensive arguments. Oh, I need a 6'9" wing. All of that doesn't mean jack if you don't put points on the board. That's what those two guys can do.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask about the bench, actually, because I feel like especially last year, Milwaukee's depth was one of its biggest selling points, almost to its detriment when it came to the playoffs, because Bud did his normal Bud thing and refused to play Giannis 38-plus minutes until it was too late.
Right.
So this year, Giannis is playing 34, Middleton's 33, Drew's 31. Everyone else is still below 30, but it feels like their depth isn't necessarily as strong as it was in recent years. Like, Forbes, Portis, Pat Connaughton, great. PJ Tucker is in the mix now as well. After that, I mean, Jeff Teague may get a few minutes in the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to lean on him too heavily. Do you think, like, is this almost like a Moneyball situation where they built the roster as such that you can't trust the guys beyond the 7th or 8th man, so Bud's going to have to play?
No, honestly, I don't hate the depth. I understand.
Okay.
I mean, I get that last year they had George Hill, and that was part of that whole, he's a great floor spacer. He comes in with steady defense, all of that. But this is where I would like to point out that Bobby Portis and Bryn Forbes are actually shooting a very comparable three-point percentage on higher volume, no less, than George Hill. I get you don't get the defense, but now you have two guys who can go off offensively. And I would argue last year, what really killed Milwaukee here and there was just the fact that no one else could step up and score and really could get buckets. Say what you will about Bobby Portis, but he will have those games here and there where he just out of nowhere drops 28 and 12. No, but he does. I mean, we have to look at what he's doing right now as well. 11 points, almost 7.5 rebounds in 21 minutes, shooting 52% from the field, 47 from downtown. He is a guy who can come in and just put up points both near the basket, from range. Like, he is essentially what LaMarcus Aldridge was for the Nets. And I think the depth, offensively speaking, is better. Yeah, defensively, they've given up a little bit. They do. And PJ Tucker isn't going to convince me of otherwise. But I like the offensive depth, and I think we're sleeping on that a little bit.
That's fair.
Oh, and Pat Connaughton got better too.
Yeah, I mean, so did DiVincenzo. Like the complimentary guys that were there last year, a lot of them have gotten better this year. And I think, the Tucker thing he's played 4 games so far, so we haven't seen a ton out of him yet. But if we're looking at a Brooklyn series in particular, that's another guy they could throw at KD or just give them a little bit more versatility to mix it up. So if the Nets do go small and Brook Lopez can't stay on the floor for some reason or another, like if, Jeff Green's playing the 5, Bruce Brown's playing the 5, and they, that proves difficult to keep Brook Lopez guarding someone efficiently, enter PJ Tucker, who has played that small ball 5 role, a lot within the last year or two especially, and has done pretty well.
I'm a little bit upset with you. Why would you put PJ on KD when he's just spent the last 3.5 years getting to know every move there's in James Harden's book?
That's fair. And size-wise, it actually makes a lot more sense for him to guard Harden, too.
Both are like 6'5", yeah.
Yeah, and, I mean, if nothing else, it's 6 extra fouls on Harden.
That's true.
If Middleton gets into foul trouble early or Giannis gets into foul trouble early, Tucker's a really nice luxury to have against that team.
Also, and I'm not saying that Tucker is in any way a dirty player. That's not what I'm going to go at. But he can pull out the hard fouls here and there.
He's physical.
He's physical. Yeah. James Harden has had him on his side for 3.5 years. If Tucker goes in and gives up some pretty hard fouls on Harden and stares that dude down, I mean, I'm not going to say that Harden is mentally at that point where it would get into his head, but I'm also not saying that couldn't be the case. Yeah. I mean, hey, old buddy, old friend, I know every move that you have. I am going to foul the ever-living S out of you for as long as I can because I know what you're coming with. I am going to hack you down because I want this championship ring that you couldn't deliver to us while we were in Houston together.
That's fair.
Just saying.
Any other things on Milwaukee, or do you want to move on to the other big threat in the East to them?
No. The only thing I want to close with Milwaukee is I think we as an NBA community are sleeping on them, and I probably would advise everyone to wake up.
That is fair.